So I'm here today to talk to you about the one-shot photography challenge. It's something I started there recently. Basically it's all about just going out to your favourite location, taking one photograph, really thinking about it, investing a lot of time and a lot of energy into that one shot and trying to get what's in here over onto here. So basically it's a bit like going back to the days of film photography, where you had to really contemplate every movement you made, your composition, your shutter speed. Think of everything before you press the shutter button, because you were limited to 36, 39, 24 exposures, whatever was in a roll of film at the time. So that's what we're doing, because I suppose to a certain extent with modern digital photography, the respect for the individual frame or the individual image is slightly gone. So it's one of the reasons why I really like the idea behind the one-shot photography challenge, and it's the reason why I'm doing it. So let's have a look and see what I did. So I'm going to be sharing a screen share with you here now too as well. So this is it, let's go over to it. The place I went to, it's the beautiful Sheep's Cove. And you can see what originally drew me to this area is this gorgeous rock here. Nice rock here too as well, but huge problems we have in the day. And as you can see, this photograph is actually only about showing the background of where the photograph is being taken. This isn't a one-shot image, let me just put it that way. So this is just taken for the purpose of the video, so you can see where I was, what I was doing, the thought process involved, and why I took the shot I did. So as I was saying, that rock, this fella here, is the main source of action in the image for me. All the seaweed, huge problem, for the simple reason being is you can see the tide is coming in. So when the tide is coming in, it's pushing the seaweed forward. So as it's pushing that seaweed forward, it's hitting the tripod, it's knocking it, it's making it unstable, it's moving. So when you're trying to take a long exposure photograph, you're going to get instability, so you're going to get a very shaky, blurred image out of it. So we want to stay away from that. So there's two ways out of it. You can step further back and zoom in, which wasn't going to work for me here in this instance. Or the other option is to wait for a lower wave, like this one was, for example. You can see it's only coming in along here. That was the peak of the wave, and it went back out along again. So what I thought was I would position myself here and shoot more this direction. As I'm shooting this way, I'll be facing more into this nice light here, which you can barely see on the side. So that was going all yellowy golden back over on here during sunset. Again, the exposure isn't correct in this image, it's out of focus. I'm just using it just to give you an idea as to where I was, what I was doing, and the thought process behind it. So let's go to the photograph. So this was the image. If I can go onto it, there it is, and I just get rid of all the drawing and the scribbling. So this is the photograph. So basically speaking, our image is reasonably correctly exposed, apart from the fact that the shadow details are kind of hidden. So what it is, I shot this on a tripod obviously. I was using a Nikon D850 with a Nikon 16-35 f4 lens at f11. It's a 2-second exposure at ISO 64. So how did I get it down to 2 seconds? I used a 6-stop Format High-Tech Firecrest Pro ND filter, and I also used, and this is the trick in this photograph, I also used a 4-stop graduated filter. Now, what did the 4-stop graduated filter do for me? I put the filter across like that. So the filter is going at a 45-degree angle on the image, so the graduation is going up that way. So this is darkening the effect. So up along here is getting darker and darker, and down here is remaining unaffected. So this was actually just the start of the graduation all along here. So you can see where the water is being reflected in the sand here. It isn't actually that bright. That's because it's already been graduated here slightly, or darkened by the ND filter, is there? So it kept these exposures here in check to a certain extent. So it was all about balancing these exposures so I could keep the detail there. So in editing this photograph, what would I do? Well, the first protocol I always have in the photograph is pop the shadows open. Once you do that with the shadow control here, once you slide the shadow control open, it completely opens up the image, and you can see all our shadow detail in this rock here, which is the main thing I wanted, is perfect. It's absolutely crystal clear. So your next protocol then is going down here to your highlight control. So what you want to do is you want to bring your highlights down, probably down around there. So, and what you will notice is this area and this area are reasonably correctly exposed. They're a small bit dark, but they're roughly at around the same level. So I've balanced my image there now as such by bringing my highlights down. So highlights down to -61, shadows up to +60. The only other thing I want to do is this small area here and this small area here, just to darken those down. So we can do that by grabbing our whites and just pulling them down. And when I pull them down, you will see it is affecting the rest of the image fractionally, but it's mainly affecting the whites, those little peaks, the fellas I was drawing there. You can see it's that part of the image. So if I bring that down around there, let's say, so that's the image balanced out. The exposure is more or less correct. What we want to do is just pop up the exposure a small little bit. So if I go here to my exposure and go up to 0.45, we'll go 0.5 for the sake of it. So that's the image nearly bang on there now. So what do we need to do next? The next thing I would do with a photograph like that is I would go in and I would adjust the white balance, because I'm shooting auto white balance because of the fact we're shooting in RAW. So what I'm going to try and do is try and get the white balance correct. You can see I do this a lot. So again, up on this area, this should be all kind of yellowy. This is all nice and blue still, and yeah, that looks roughly about the way it was. So if I go here to the temperature control and bring that up, you will see, yeah, that's way too far, that's it. And what I am looking at, the blues here, and I'm looking at the orange colors here, to bring it back to the way it was when I saw it. So for true, replication of the scene as I saw it. The next thing I'm going to do then is go to my tint control and bring that up, because it was verging a small bit in green. That is way too purple there now. That is too purple, that is too purple, that is too green. That is right. Yeah, so I tinted +5, and the temperature up to 7673 is giving me more or less bang on what I saw at the time. The only thing with it is, it's still quite a pale image, because again, this is the raw file. We need to boost the saturation, we need to boost the vibrancy. So I will go down to vibrance, and I will pop that up by +10. I'll go saturation +10, +15. Yeah, +15 we'll say. That looks good to me now. So that is our image correctly exposed, that is our color sorted out. The next thing we need to look at is details. So to look at details, we need to go down and we need to go to this panel, which is our sharpening area. So again, I would normally bring sharpness up around maybe 100 or so as the, I would bring the radius up to 1.3. The masking tool then, if you hold down Alt and left click your mouse, pick it as white, and then you can see that's all going to be sharpened. Just the white area is going to be sharpened. So as I pull this up along, you will see, and that's too far now, yeah, there. Yeah, I generally find it somewhere between about 65 and 85 on the masking, just for me personally with landscapes. So luminance, noise reduction, I will bring that up. We probably bring it up around 8 or 9 or something. As the reason why we don't need to bring it up that much is, as I was saying earlier, I shot this at ISO 64, so we're going to have a very low noise image. We didn't have to do a massive amount of shadow detail recovery, so the noise is going to be really low, so we don't really need to bring in noise reduction a lot. So so that's basically that. The other two things that are really important in this photograph is these two dials down here. Remove chromatic aberration and the enable profile corrections. So what it will do is the enable profile corrections will get rid of any distortion in the image, and the chromatic aberrations, if you look along this edge of the image here, there is a green line. I'll try not to paint over, but there's a green line on the edge of the image. So that is not right. So if I click on this, give it a couple of seconds, and all of a sudden it's gone. So that is as the image is intended to be. So that is our photograph finished. You can do now, so as I was just saying, that's the photograph finished. Now there is one other thing you can do to it to add a bit of pop to the image. It's a small little bit flat. You can really make it pop just by doing a simple little thing. This rock, which is this fella here when you're looking at it on screen, is the principal point in our image. We want to highlight that. How are we going to highlight that? Well, I suppose the easiest way of highlighting that is to brighten it a small bit, to just drag the viewer into it a small little bit. So again, we can do that two different ways. You can actually paint it with the brush tool. So with the brush tool, you go into the brush tool, drag it over, paint it, increase your exposure or whatever you want, and work away from there and see how you get on with it. The one thing I like to do with it, rather than use the brush tool, and this is where people are going to laugh at me, is I tend to use the radial filter. Yeah, I know, the radial, he said what? The radial filter? But I find the radial filter is really handy. I'll show you exactly why there now. So if I go in, catch the radial filter and pull it down, no, after popping that in and bring it back a small little bit. So if I set that somewhere there now, let's say, I can, firstly, with the radial filter, you want to go down here and click on this box that says invert, because as it stands at the moment, this part of the image is being all outside of here, is all this area is all being affected. So if I go along and pull my exposure down, you see that's all darkening down, and the center of the rock isn't being affected. Whereas we actually want to invert that, we want to swap it around. So I'll go ahead and click on the invert box, and then you will see when I pull this down, it's actually the rock is the one that's being affected, not anything else. So so what I'll go and do is we're at the standard setting here now, so no radial filter has been applied. So I start increasing my exposure and I bring it up to about there maybe, let's say. So that is a plus 0.7 there now on the exposure dial. So now the one thing I would like to do here is, you will notice this area here, there's a nice little bit of water movement going on there. So what I want to do is I want to highlight that. So how I can do that is to pull the radial filter down, and as I pull the radial filter down, you see that part of the image brightening. So that is basically that photograph finished now, and I'm not going to do any more with that. It is completely finished. There is a second version of that photograph we can actually use too as well. The second version would be the black and white version. So to get it over to black and white, what we basically do is scroll all the way up here, click on that box there that says black and white, and once I do that, it converts it over to black and white. Now, is that good enough? Is that now a proper black and white photograph? No, it's not. Because before with colour, you had a lot of interesting colours going on around the place. You know, your light blues over here, your oranges and whatnot. If you look at the screen, there was a whole lot of orange here. There was blue starting from here up along here. Then you had the colour of the rocks, you had the colour of the sand along here, the orange of the sunlight on the sand down below in the bottom corner. Then you had the green up on top here. There was, you know, there was a slightly yellowy tone to this rock too as well. So there was a lot of action going on. Whereas when you take all that out, you're left with the raw file. So you're left with I suppose the monochrome image. So you're going to have to give that a small bit of a nudge in the right direction. Again, as I was saying all along from the very start, that it was this rock was the thing that I wanted to concentrate on. This rock and the sunset. So this rock here and the sunset colours over along here. So if I get rid of those beautiful drawings yet again, how can we help that rock pop out? The sunset colours are obviously gone now, so we can forget about that. So what we'll do is we'll go all the way down to the bottom here now, and I'm going to go on to something that's going to make people cringe. I am going to suggest you add in a vignette. Now, why would you add in a vignette? Because all these areas up along here is of little attention, and here is of, you don't really want to draw attention to it, is there? And along here, and maybe along here a small little bit, and up along there is nice enough. So there isn't a lot going on there too as well. So I suppose ideally speaking, if we can draw a person mainly towards this area, or I would say that area, then brilliant. So how we can do that is we go down here to our vignette tool, and we just change this slightly, and you'll notice as I start pulling it in, all of a sudden you're just being dragged straight through to that rock. Now that is absolutely extreme. When I see people posting vignettes like that, I want to slap them. I'm just being completely honest with you. I'm thinking, Jesus, you know, where have you been? What have you done? What have you thought about, you know? Sorry, as I got lost control there. So I just want to pull it back to somewhere about there now, probably. So there is a vignette there. There's no doubt whatsoever about it. It is quite strong, but we're going to do two things to counteract this. We're going to go back to our original radial filter, and we're going to use that again for the black and white. So you see how sometimes what you add in colour you can also work with in black and white too as well. So I'm post-production. So if I go back here now, so our vignette and everything else is in. Reasonably happy with that. Want to add a bit more punch to that rock there to really help it pop a small bit more. We just click on a radial filter and click here. That was a radial filter we applied before. It was in +7. I am going to say we're going to go nuts, and we're going to bring that up to +1 maybe, and bring this side in a small little bit there, and we are going to adjust our clarity on that then. Now I've seen people go completely daft with clarity and pop it way up. No point whatsoever again. I think with the likes of those things, especially with clarity, you have to be careful. I would bring it up around the 20-25 mark, I suppose, roughly, with the likes of that shot there now. And so we're finished with a radial filter. So we're going to come back then to our general exposure, and we're going to put it back the way it was first day, or maybe increase it fractionally. I think bring it back to there, and all of a sudden we've a different image now. So that bright rock is really starting to pop in the photograph. There's a lot of other stuff going on that people will, once they see the photograph, they're automatically going to be sucked into the rock, and they're going to see everything else then afterwards, but everything else isn't really of concern. Now the one other part of this image that I really want to help highlight is this area here. So I have a nice little white line running along here. We have the leading lines running down along here too as well. So we can use all those too as well. Now how can we use them? Again, I suppose I would say something like the brush tool. Just go in, it's reasonably simple. Click on the brush tool and just go down and just paint along here, and I made an absolute bags of that. Paint there, and I am going to paint here. I'll bring it down there, and I'm going to paint here, and along here down there, and paint there. I'm going to paint there, and I'm going to paint there. Now, so I am going to go up to my exposure then for the brush tool, and I am going to pop that up a small bit. And I would think I would go 0.4, yeah. I would go about there now. Now the one thing with it is, if you look at it, this area here is a small bit too bright, and maybe that section is a small bit too bright. So we've introduced a problem which is very easy to solve. So what we'll do is we just turn around and click on this fella, the erase brush mode. So if I click on erase, now anything that I draw over with the brush is going to erase what we've drawn on. So we're going to erase the original brush stroke. So I can just go along and erase it completely, but that's going to be too severe. What we need to do is bring the flow, which is this fella, just underline him there, that fella, bring the flow down, I would say generally about 50-40%, depending on how much of a problem it is. I'd say 50% is fine here now. So, and what I'll do is I will just run over that, and what it's doing, and go on here, is as I run over it, it's not completely erasing it, it's fractionally erasing the brush strokes we put on. So we can run over it quickly once and say, right, that's after weakening the brush stroke we applied in that specific area. You say, is that enough or isn't it? You say, oh God, it's not enough. Then just run over the second time. And it's a really fast way of editing a photograph. It's about going out, pushing yourself to capture exactly what you want in one singular image. It's not about taking 400 or 500 frames and taking 400 or 500 photographs. It's about taking one shot, and it's about capturing what you want. It's about thinking about exactly what you want. Now you could say it's a bit of luck. Sure, it is, but everything in life is a bit of luck. But the more you practice things, the better you get, or the luckier you get. It's the other side of things. So go out and do it. You mightn't like any of these photographs. I'm not saying they're my best photographs. I'm not saying I'm a great photographer. I'm just saying, you know, this is something I wanted to do. It's something I wanted to try, and I hope other people try it too as well. So, one shot photography challenge. Go check it out. Thanks for watching, guys. See you out there.